Alright, today we're going to make a classic cake donut. We're going to attempt it anyway. What we're going to need for this one is about 1/3 of a cup of coconut flour, 1/3 a cup of sweetener. I'm using stevia, so I'll probably go a little bit lighter. Swerve is closer to 1/3 of a cup, but I'm going to use a little bit less than 1/3 a cup. Need 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. I also need a tablespoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 4 large eggs, 1/4 cup of butter or 4 tablespoons of butter, 1/2 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. You could probably use imitation as well, and then 6 tablespoons of coffee. So after we make the cake donuts, we're also going to make a glaze, and I'll throw these ingredients up too. But the glaze is 1/4 cup of the powdered sweetener, teaspoon of the cocoa powder, teaspoon of heavy whipping cream, tablespoon of cocoa powder, tablespoon of heavy whipping cream, 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1.5 or 2 tablespoons of water to thin it. So we'll do the donuts first, and then we'll do the glaze second. So I got my coconut flour in there, and like I said, I'm going to use a little bit less than 1/3 of a cup of sweetener, about half of what they say, maybe a little bit more than half, because I find this stuff to be very strong. I'm not a huge fan of the taste of the stevia, so I'm going to start out light, and I'll taste the dough, and if I have to add more, I'll add more. Remember, sift, sift, sift. You don't want clumps. Okay, so there's 1/3 of the cup of coconut flour and 1/3 cup, well, actually about 1/6 of a cup of sweetener. Then I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. I can find my tablespoon. So you can add a little bit more if cocoa powder is your thing, if you really want it chocolatey. The coffee will actually add a little, intensify that cocoa powder flavor. So the coffee is how I get the cocoa powder or the chocolate to taste nice and strong, which I like. The other way would be to add a little bit more cocoa powder. Totally up to you. And I certainly didn't invent the coffee thing. That was given to me by somebody else. Then we need a teaspoon of the baking powder. Grab a teaspoon out. And get that guy in there. I apologize for the beeping. It's the microwave was heating something up. And I'm going to throw this through there. I got a little clumpy on there. You can see those clumps. Got a little clumpy, so I'm going to make sure it goes to the sifter. My cocoa powder was not clumpy, so it's good. And then 1/4 tablespoon of salt. One of my favorite things in the whole world is to add a little bit of salt to everything. These days I used to steer clear of it, but now, well, that's probably enough right there. Don't want to go too crazy on the salt. And 1/4 teaspoon there. 4 large eggs are going to go in last, actually. 1/4 cup of melted butter. And then we will add our vanilla and our little bit of coffee. All right, so you see we have the dry ingredients essentially: cocoa powder, coconut flour. Let me read it off real quick. So we got the coconut flour, the sweetener, the cocoa powder, baking powder, and the salt in a bowl. We're going to mix that together real good. Couple more twirls. Hopefully I'm somewhere close. Alright, then we're going to start adding in our eggs, melted butter, and vanilla extract. We'll just keep stirring that till it's a nice consistency, and then we'll slowly add our coffee water, and then we'll get it ready to bake. Alright, so we're going to stir in our 4 eggs. Then we will add our melted butter. So we're going to stir that together.
I see that eggshell. Have to stop and dig it out and pick it out.
Spatula's breaking the egg up enough. There we go. Hopefully the dog next door isn't being picked up on the microphone. He's been barking this entire time. Alright, we're going to add our butter, and then we'll add our vanilla extract. No wonder these taste so good. Butter and chocolate and eggs. Very nice. Get this whisked together real quick. No, you can't smell it through the camera, but it certainly smells good. Alright, we'll go ahead and add our 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I do use the pure vanilla extract as opposed to the imitation, but I'm assuming you can get away with it. I was a little bit light on that one, so just a drop more. So, looks pretty well whisked together. I'm going to taste it, and I'll start adding the coffee, and if it starts to taste a little bit strong, I'll just stop right there. I have 5 tablespoons of coffee in my little container. I'm going to add just a little bit, and I'll retaste it, and then we'll see if because I don't necessarily need it all if it tastes nice and chocolatey, and I do like the way it makes it taste. You know, really brings that chocolate taste out, but I don't want it to taste like coffee. So. Alright, so we're going to add them to our little cute donut pan here. You could do it to cupcake tins, which is what I like as well. These little guys here, pick them up anywhere. I think I got those at Walmart. Yep, great value, it's Walmart. Just going to spoon these guys into the oh, sorry, I did grease these pretty liberally beforehand, so I'm just going to scoop that in. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, and I'll clean it up with a paper towel so I don't get burnt chocolate all over. And maybe use my rubber spoon for the rest of it so I don't scratch up the pan. But once those are in, I'll put that in the oven at, I believe it's 325, yep, 325, and they go for about 16 to 20 minutes. And I'll set it for 15 and check and continue on from there if I think I have to. Alright, so I won't bore you with the loading of this, but I'll show you when it's all done and when I put it in. Alright. Alright, so we filled all our little openings. I'm going to toss this in the oven for 15 minutes. We'll test it and then check it every couple minutes after that, a minute or so. So now we're going to do our glaze. So it's a 1/4 cup of powdered stevia. And the 1/4 cup of powdered stevia, we go with 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. That guy in there. And a tablespoon of heavy whipping cream. Get that guy in there. And then 1 1/2 a quarter teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then finally, 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of water. So we'll start with 1 full tablespoon of water. And then I'll just have another little bit ready to go so that, excuse me, we can keep mixing that in as needed. It's about the thickness I like, I think. I'm going to leave it there. I could add more water and thin it. That'll be more like icing than a glaze. Alright, our timer went off. We're going to check these guys out. They went about 16 minutes. I think we're good. I'm right here on top of the rack for a second. So I'm not sure how well you can see them at this point. Like, grab another thing, we'll bring them up close. So I'll pop them out of the tin here and we'll get them onto the rack. Stick this on the cutting board. A second to cool so I can handle it, and then I will go ahead and get them onto the wire rack. Let them cool a little bit more, dip them in the chocolate, and then let the chocolate harden on the rack as well. And I'm going to use this little guy to separate them from the edges. I did grease, but we'll see if I greased enough. If you don't have one of these guys, you can use a plastic knife, anything that doesn't scratch up your cookware. Looks like that one's coming out pretty good. So I can put the chocolatey ones back in once they're done. What did I say? I'll clean the counter up afterwards.